That said, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the next session of the day on a very interesting subject, packaging content management and the role it plays in ensuring regulatory compliance. And a fantastic session, completely different from what we have been hearing throughout the day, and something extremely interesting here. And to present this, I would like to call on stage with a big round of applause, Mr. Avinash Voodi, Director of Product Marketing from ManageArtworks. Can we have Avinash with a big round of applause? Avinash, welcome to the stage and looking forward to a great session.
Excuse me. Pointer for the slides. We're just going to get a pointer for the slides and then we can begin. It was a nice lunch, wasn't it? Yes? Okay. My only job is to make sure that you guys don't doze off in the next 20 minutes. So let them figure it out when it comes to the slides. But I think I'll just start with a quick intro. So I'm Avinash, as they said. What I wanted to talk about today was how can you essentially make sure that you're regulatory compliant, and does packaging content management in an organized fashion help in any way to get that going? So that's essentially the topic for today. I'll talk a little bit about what packaging content management is, what can we do and how it helps. Hopefully I'll cover a few practical scenarios as well that happen in our day-to-day basis as we go. So let's see. Right, okay. So I'm from ManageArtworks. I think in very simple terms, we are an end-to-end packaging content and artwork management platform. We are a software company. One of the things that I tell everybody that I meet is we don't design artworks, we don't print them. We just provide a software that helps manage everything all the way from content till you actually hit your shelves, be it digital or physical. So that's in a nutshell from 30,000 feet about what we do. I'll try and cover a little bit about how each of these different pieces come together. Okay, so I think there's a slight delay between this. Okay, so I think a little bit about us. Why should you listen to Avinash from ManageArtworks? It's because for today, as of now, for the last 15 years, we have more than 4,000 brands that are already using ManageArtworks across the globe. We are based out of Chennai, and we have offices in the US and Paris. So just a quick intro on who we are. Another interesting metric that we keep a track of is how many packaging artworks have we helped process over the last 10, 15 years. So, this is about 1,014,000 and counting. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, so some of you would have seen my presentation earlier, and you're probably thinking that this guy has the same slides, but no, the numbers have changed. I'm probably going to do a quiz at the end, but yeah. So that's a little bit about us. Who we are, what we do. Like I said, before I started this whole thing, I said we do everything from content management till your package hits the shelf. So if I have to break it into 4 nice little pieces, it's content, design, review, and release. So I can make sure that all of your content is in one place, the right people approve the right content, and once all the content is approved, we have tools that integrate with both Adobe Illustrator and InDesign, so your approved packaging content can then make its way onto your packaging artwork. Artwork management is what we essentially call review. I see some of my customers as well in the room, so you can essentially proofread your artworks. The right departments can approve the packaging artwork, and you can hit the shelf. And the last tool is something that will help you hit the market, actually. So there are 2 things that we do. One is, if you're getting your packaging artwork printed, you can compare your printed packaging artwork against your digital file. We'll tell you if there is any difference. Other than that, we can also make sure that your right content, the e-com content, your pack shots that you have reach your digital shelves. Even if that's Amazon, any other websites that you sell on, even if it's your own website, we can make sure that the right content goes. So whenever your packaging artwork changes, whenever your pack shots change, we can make sure that the right content reflects everywhere you sell. So that's, again, from a very top level, what we do. So why is this whole thing important? How is packaging content managed today? Again, in all of my years, what I'm given to understand is, it's typically Word or Excel. If you have some product information management or product lifecycle management systems, sometimes it exists there. If you are going through an Amazon or any other syndicator where you have all of your content, maybe they have a version of your packaging content. But then what I do realize is a lot of times, if I go to a brand and pull out a random SKU from the shelf and say, can you give me the right content for this particular packaging artwork, more often than not, they find it hard to do so. And that's a problem that we aim to fix with our solution. So what happens if you don't have an organized packaging content system? So your packaging content is incomplete, it's unapproved, it's inconsistent at best. And when you bring all of that together, that's the recipe essentially for disaster. So some numbers, I think, they still hold good. More often than not, your packaging iterations are actually caused because your pack copy is incorrect. Again, more than 87% of the time, we realize that nobody's sure if the right content has actually gone into the artwork. Is it actually approved? So there is a brief, it went together. More often than not, once the artwork is created, when the V1 keeps going around for approval is when content changes happen. And that's a scenario that we are trying to avoid. So the idea for us is to make sure that you hit the markets faster. You make sure that your artworks are right the very first time. So from here, I think what I wanted to cover was, this is how a typical carton's packaging artwork looks like when you open it all. I'm sure you know best. If you take all the content that was there on that artwork and you put it in my system, this is how it will look like. For every element, the right people, the right departments can come in, they can approve. You can even define to your designer where that piece of text is supposed to go, front panel, left panel, side panel, back panel. You can talk about all of that. And you can make sure that the regulatory folks approve the regulatory content, quality, marketing, packaging, and likewise. One question that I get very often is, this is great. What happens when I already have a few SKUs in place? I want to create a new variant, or I just want to create a different size. Most of my content will be the same. In which case, what we can do is, if you already have one SKU, all of its content in place, I can copy from that SKU, I can create content for the new SKU. So again, probably 2 or 3 elements change, everything else stays the same, and whatever is already approved will stay that way. You do not have to recreate your brief from the scratch using the system. Another question that I keep getting also is that I have 4 or 5 product categories where all of my products fit. Can I actually create a template and say that every time I'm coming up with a new SKU for cakes, I want to make sure that all of these elements are there. And I want to make sure that these people edit it, these people approve it. I want to make sure that these are my timelines. I can make sure that all of this is taken care of. The system can not only work in English, it can take care of your translations, it can work, it can bring your translators in, it can bring your design agencies in. It's just seamless as the way it collaborates. So I spoke for a little bit. I said, once you have all the right content, you can use our Adobe plugin and you can bring the right content to the artwork. This is how that looks like. So when the designer opens up your packaging artwork, all of your approved content appears in a neat little panel on the right. All they have to do is drag and drop the content and it makes its way to the artwork. So there is no copy pasting, there is no typing content, there is no way for that content to be incorrect. In some time I'll show you another tool which will actually compare the text which made its way to the packaging artwork, and it'll compare that with the brief that you've approved. So there is another level of check to make sure that nobody inadvertently caused an error in the pack copy. So one of the questions is there a way for us to add a little more intelligence to the packaging artwork creation process? The answer is yes, and I think I'm going to take a few scenarios and I'm going to talk about how we've kind of added a little bit of intelligence in each of these scenarios. So starting with, there you go, calculation of PDP. Now, I'm a software company. I have a website, I look at it every day. I'd be delighted if people come, look at a certain page and say, oh great, this is the product, let me sign up, let me talk to them and see what they have. Funny enough, I have a blog on my website that says how to calculate PDP for an artwork. And that's my most visited page for the last decade consistently. So we keep updating it every time that happens. But then it's such an important element. I think a lot of what you do, I'm sure your regulatory folks, you know best than me. A lot of things depend on the PDP size that you have. I just took one example when it comes to your wedge symbol and what the FSSAI says, how it changes per PDP size. So if you define, what you see on your left is a screenshot of what we call an element value master. So I take an approved logo from you, approved symbol from you, I keep it in my system. And when you're creating a new packaging artwork, if you pick saying that, hey, the PDP size for this pack is up to 100 centimeters square, then the system will automatically show the right size of the wedge symbol that has to be placed on the packaging artwork. So that's possible with my system. What you see on your right is a simple PDP calculation. So we have an area measurement tool. So what you see in yellow is the tool. You just drag and drop over your PDP area. I can tell you, what the PDP is. You can change the scale in which it measures. So one scenario, in which we can avoid that confusion, whether you're using the right symbol or not. The other area, I think I'll talk about it in a little bit, is it's not just the size, but it's also about the color, the Pantone of the wedge symbol that's used. It's defined by FSSAI. So I have what's called a densitometer. So if you just point it at the green dot, it'll tell you the right Pantone. So if it matches, great. If it's not, you know that there is something to fix right there. Another scenario based on your addresses. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with these scenarios, right? It's manufactured in one place, it's marketed by a different entity, or you're importing a certain good and you're selling. So what I can do, what you're seeing at the bottom of the screen is essentially templates that I'm creating based on your business scenarios. So if you say that, hey, I have a product that's being manufactured for brand ManageArtworks at plant A, and if it's manufactured by me, this is the address that has to come up. So you can save these addresses as templates, and as you select this information, the system will automatically show you that, hey, this is the address that you're supposed to pick up and put on the artwork. And this address is approved by you already, so there is no way that this can go wrong. And in these cases, for example, manufactured and marketed, if you have two addresses, two different FSSAI license numbers, all of them are captured in my master, and it's very easy for you to relate and make sure that the right information made its way again to the artwork. Let's talk about one more scenario. Now, this is about font compliance, one of the biggest hassles that I hear. I still hear today people come and tell me that, hey, we still take a printout, we take a ruler, and we try and measure the size of the characters to make sure it doesn't, go down the minimum for that particular PDP. So we take font measurement very seriously, and there are three areas or three different ways in which we can help you make sure that your artworks are font compliant. What you're seeing on your screen is our packaging content system. So when the regulatory team approves a certain piece of text, there is an option for you to define what the font size should be as an instruction to your teams internally. So when the designer picks up the artwork, he is looking at this information, and the right font size is actually being brought onto the artwork. So that's check one in terms of an instruction for the approved pack content. Step two, in my Adobe plugin, I can define what the font size should be for certain pieces of text. So for example, if it's an allergen statement, if my PDP is so-and-so, make sure that you align it to the left, make sure that you give it this particular font property in this font family, and it's possible. The system automatically makes sure that the font is in that particular font size, that font family, and the exact alignment that you've defined here. Check number three. So the first two steps is where you've created that particular artwork. This is where you're reviewing the artwork. You want to make sure that it's still done accurately. So I have a font analysis tool, which actually pulls up all the text which is on the artwork and arranges it by font. Then I also have a tooltip where you can just mouse over any area in the artwork. It will tell you the font information. So for example, on this screen, it's hitting at 100 grams, and it's telling you the font size, cap height, X height, font width, etc. for that particular character. And towards the end, I still have a checklist. So somebody who is reviewing this, I have a checklist to them to say that, hey, go back, check, make sure that the net weight, statements font is accurate. So all of these checks are possible again. Another area that we can help, another practical scenario is, this is my new content creation or new artwork creation form. And for example, if you select saying that this particular SKU that I'm creating is not for retail use, then obviously FSSAI says that you've got to have a statement that says not for retail sale on your packaging artwork, and I can make sure that that text is automatically populated based on this scenario again. So based on what you're filling up in the form, when you say no, one, it populates the text. Two, by any chance, if the designer has removed the text, it'll again do a revalidation and tell you that, hey, that text is supposed to be there because you said that the product is not for retail use. So there's again 2 checks in place to make sure that we do not miss a legal guideline. Another scenario that I could cover, oh, there you go, nutrition information. So another interesting area. So I have an area in my system where you can bring in all of your nutritional information for a given SKU. Now, what you see at the bottom are 3 different types of nutrition panels, one for a combo pack, one a linear panel, another a vertical panel. So based on the information you populate here, you can create any type of panel that is FSSAI compliant. I do it for multiple markets. We can do an FDA compliant label, an FSA compliant label. So just like that, we can do an FSSAI compliant label as well. Another interesting area, about kilocalories. I think you see this text that says your recommended daily allowance is about 2,000 kilocalories. So if you want to make sure that that statement is accurately populated, that's possible as well. Some of you keen folks would have noticed there is a typo in that slide. That was intentional. If you did not, I think we said instead of kilocalories, we said KRAL, but I'm not going to load that again. Okay, allergen declaration. So this area is where, another very common area, you have your ingredients, there are a set of known allergens, and you want to make sure that you've declared those allergens. So there are 2 things I can do. If your ingredients have any known allergen, I can throw a warning. I can say that, hey, your ingredients has an allergen, but you do not have an allergen statement, to make sure that you take a look at that allergen statement. If there is a scenario where you've already added, you just want to compare and make sure that it's clean. I also have a copy comparison, so it's comparing your packaging artwork with your approved content. It's telling you that yes, you have the statement, and yes, the statement is accurate, and there is no discrepancy. So we can make sure that you've got your allergen statements right. Let's see, I think I have one more scenario. Okay, so I think those were scenarios. I think a few other things that we can do. Obviously, I spoke about the densitometer a while ago, so we can check colors that are there on your packaging artwork, Pantone, CMYK, process colors, all of that is possible. We can check for fonts that are there. I just spoke about it, so I'm going to skip through this. We can identify barcodes. We can tell you the scan grade, magnification of a barcode, so that information is out there. We can also essentially compare 2 versions of an artwork. I'll come to that. What you're seeing on your screen is a spell check tool. So I can even do a spell check on your packaging artwork. Today it works in more than 27 languages. I can keep adding dictionaries. If you have words that are, for example, chemical names, or if it's a medical dictionary related word, you can keep adding them to the dictionary and it'll keep populating, so it'll make sure that it doesn't show the same error one more time. So this is comparison. So if you have 2 versions of your packaging artwork, I can compare both versions. I can tell you if there is any difference in text or images that's there on a packaging artwork. And if there is any, I'll highlight it. The system will tell you that, hey, this is a difference in text, this is a difference in image. It's a formatting difference, it's a casing difference. Certain text is only there on the master file, certain text is only there on the sample file. All these scenarios can be covered using ManageArtworks. And I think we are coming towards the end. So just one area I wanted to highlight was, do I really need a system that's this deep? Do I have to invest in all that time and effort? So I just took one simple example of Parle-G. So I just took all the data that you see on the screen is from their website. If you notice one similarity, each of these are different product lines, obviously, but you would have noticed that these are different SKUs. It could be a different flavor in that particular brand or product line. So today, if you look at it, I just pulled out some analytics, and it looks like They have about 15 sub-brands, about 57 variants, a total of 228 SKUs that they've listed on the website. Now, if you do not have an organized packaging content system, you would have created 228 briefs for each of those packaging artworks. But if you have the system, like I told you earlier, you can copy from an existing approved SKU, you can create it from a template. So that number would have come probably down to 57. And that's a ton of time saved when creating new packaging. So I think towards the beginning of the conversation, I said we want to make sure that you get to the market faster. So if you're taking 3 months today, if I can get you to the market in 2 months, that's a month's worth of sales that I'm helping you make. So that's the overall spiel, and that's why I think a system like this is very beneficial. Towards the end. There you go. I think just a little bit about who we are. So, we are an artificial intelligence-driven company. So, all of these rules that I tell you are essentially powered by AI. We are an ISO 9001, 27001, 27017 certified company. We are compliant with FDA 21 CFR 11, EU NX 11, all of that jazz. And obviously, we are hosted on Microsoft Azure. So, the solution is completely cloud-based. There is no hardware or software requirements that you would need to begin. So that's about us. We are present across the world. India obviously is our head office. We've got partner network in the Middle East and South America. We have offices in US and Europe. So that's a little bit about us. I think I have a few slides about, so some of our customers from India and a couple of other locations, predominantly CPG names is what I've taken and put up, but our website has an extensive list of all of our customers. So that's pretty much me. I think that's time. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Avinash, for that wonderful presentation. And for the interest of the time, I think we can take one quick question from the audience. Please do raise your hand and introduce yourself, and humble request to keep the question brief. So do we have a question? Yeah, so we have one question.
I was just beginning to think it was so good that there are no questions. All right. Yeah, please. Mm-hmm. Right.
You cannot depend on a single vendor. So you give your designs to a different vendor. So how to maintain that different vendor machines are different. We are struggling to get the same Pantone from different vendors.
Right.
Like if you have given some orange color maybe a Pantone. So its orange shades are very different. So if I have a 5 SKU, so I can see 5 different colors in Pantone.
Right.
It's kind of a difficult thing for us to maintain same kind of colors in different vendors.
Correct. So, Pantone inspection is something which is quite an interesting thing. So, from the system for a digital file, it's very easy. Like I said, there is a densitometer. You can pick up what Pantone is there. But on a print file, it becomes really challenging. One of the reasons is because there is no way for you to replicate and check whether it's the same Pantone. I have, a print inspection system that I spoke about. So if you have a good scanner which can scan over 600 dpi, I can take the artwork, I can compare it to the digital file, I can tell you if there is anything different. But by the nature of scan, I really cannot identify the color. The best I can do is tell you if there is a high contrast color difference. So that I can do, I can identify bleed, but real world problem, I think there is so much of R&D that's going on around Pantones from print that it becomes a little challenging. One of the things that we managed to fix, I think print is an interesting scenario that you brought up. If they load up some of your artworks towards the end of day when it goes for print, it can also happen that you will have bleed, you will have colors that bleed into the other, you will have lines that become smudged. So my print inspection system today can pick up all of that. It can tell you whether your actual printed sample has the right density of colors, if it's bled correctly as your digital file does. So I can go to that extent. If there is any changes in text symbols, obviously I can highlight it for you. But I think it's an ongoing area with a ton of research. But thanks for the question.
Thank you so much for that question. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Mr. Avinash Voodi, Director Product Marketing, ManageArtworks. Avinash, I would request you to kindly be on stage. And I would like to call on stage Mr. Navneet Mehta, Global Quality Director, Food and Refreshment from Unilever. Navneet ji, thank you so much for doing the honors. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again on this wonderful
so much.
presentation, Packaging Content Management and the role it plays in ensuring regulatory compliance by Mr. Avinash Voodi from ManageArtworks.
Thank you so much.